Welcome back, listeners, to CrimePod Castle and to our Unsolved Mystery series. This is episode 75. Today, we're diving deep into a case from India, a really tragic and kind of perplexing case.
Oh, yeah.
It's a death shrouded in mystery, and it all takes place within the hallowed halls of the Meenakshi Temple. It's in Madurai, India.
Wow. Okay.
So picture this, a place with vibrant colors and intricate carvings, centuries of spiritual devotion, and now imagine it as the backdrop for a crime that is still unsolved.
Yeah, it's a case where the serenity of the place really clashes with the brutality of the crime, and it's really interesting to try to figure out what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the center of all of this is a man named Pandit Raghavan. He dedicated over 20 years of his life to serving this temple.
Wow.
So for those who might not know, a pandit in Hinduism is like a scholar and a priest, someone who knows a lot about religious texts and rituals.
Okay.
Raghavan was known for being really devout and for his knowledge of ancient scriptures. And he really had this unwavering dedication to the Meenakshi Temple.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how this peaceful life is just completely contrasted with such a violent death, and makes you wonder how something like that could happen to someone like him.
Yeah, it's almost like a paradox.
Yeah.
And to make things even more complicated, there were even rumors before he died about some financial irregularities within the temple administration.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and some even say that Raghavan had voiced some concerns about these issues, potentially making him, I don't know, like a target.
Oh, wow.
So we're definitely going to explore this angle a lot more later on, but first, let's go back to the day it all started, August 12th, 2019.
A day that started like any other at the temple, but took a very dark turn.
Exactly. So imagine, like, the sun's coming up over Madurai, and the golden light is hitting those temple towers. Worshippers are coming in for morning prayers, but Pandit Raghavan's nowhere to be found.
Okay.
And this wasn't just like he was running late. He was known for always being on time, like never missed a beat. This was very unsettling and totally out of character for him.
Yeah, that's definitely a red flag. Someone's so dedicated to his routine, and then suddenly this. Something's definitely wrong.
Right. And so as the hours passed, everyone got more and more worried. They started searching. Temple workers, devotees, everyone, hoping for the best but fearing the worst.
Yeah.
And then the unthinkable happens. They found Raghavan's body in a really secluded area behind the temple.
And I'm assuming it wasn't a peaceful scene?
No, not at all. He had been badly hurt, like really bad injuries to his head and torso, which means there was a struggle.
So definitely not a peaceful passing. This was murder.
Exactly. And get this, his belongings were gone, including a bag that had temple offerings in it.
This is where it gets really interesting. We have this priest, right, known for being peaceful, brutally murdered inside this temple, and then valuable offerings go missing. Robbery's a possibility, but was it just a robbery gone wrong, or was there something else going on?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the autopsy showed that he died from blunt force trauma to the head. And that pretty much ruled out an accident. It had to be a deliberate attack.
Yeah.
And it gets worse. They found defensive wounds on his arms and hands.
Oh, wow. So he fought back.
It seems that way.
That's awful. It really makes you wonder what those last moments were like for him. If he knew his attacker or if it was someone, he didn't even see coming.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. And then you add the missing offerings to all of this, and it gets even more complicated. I mean, offerings can be pretty valuable.
Right, like jewelry and money and things like that.
Exactly. So could this have been a robbery that escalated? Or was Raghavan targeted for some other reason?
It's really hard to say. I mean, on one hand, you've got these valuables that, could tempt anyone. But on the other hand, the level of violence just doesn't seem like a typical robbery.
You're right. It feels much more personal, almost like an act of revenge.
Yeah, like there was some real anger there.
Exactly. And this is where those rumors about the financial issues within the temple become really important.
Right, because Raghavan wouldn't just ignore something like that.
No, he was known for his honesty. He wouldn't have stood for any wrongdoing, even if it meant going up against powerful people.
So you're thinking maybe those whispers weren't just rumors. Like maybe Raghavan knew about something illegal going on, and it cost him his life.
It's definitely a strong possibility. The investigation did find out that Raghavan had spoken to some temple officials about his concerns. He had seen things in the temple's finances that didn't add up and felt like he had to say something. Now, we don't know for sure if this is directly related to his death, but it does make the robbery theory seem a lot less likely, don't you think?
For sure. I mean, imagine if he had evidence, proof of something shady going on, and he confronts the people involved. They panic. They're worried about getting caught, and they decide to silence him.
It's a grim thought, especially considering where it happened. A place of worship, a place that should be safe, becomes the scene of this horrible act. It's what makes this case so disturbing, this clash between faith and greed and violence.
It's really unsettling. Yeah, and to make things even harder for the investigators, no one really saw anything useful.
Right.
I mean, the Meenakshi Temple is huge and always busy, with tons of people coming and going. Someone could easily blend in, especially if they knew the place.
Definitely. Investigators talked to tons of people who were there that day, but nobody could say for sure that they saw Raghavan with anyone suspicious or that anything unusual happened. There was a security guard who mentioned seeing someone lurking near a back gate, but it was the night before and he couldn't give a good description.
So we've got this puzzle. A well-respected priest who's worried about financial wrongdoing ends up dead in a secluded part of the temple, and valuable offerings are gone. And there are no clear witnesses to help the investigation. It's like every time we get close to something, the mystery just gets deeper.
It really is. It's like one of those classic whodunits, but set in this ancient temple. And beyond all the intrigue, there's this terrible tragedy. A man lost his life, a family and community are grieving, and there are so many unanswered questions. They deserve justice.
It's just so frustrating. So many questions and hardly any answers. Was Pandit Raghavan's death just a random act of violence? Was it a robbery that went wrong? Or was he silenced because he was trying to do the right thing? It's a mystery that still haunts everyone.
And you know, it's especially hard for Raghavan's family and the community not having any closure. They lost someone they loved in such a horrific way, and they don't even know why or who did it.
Yeah. It's a reminder that sometimes, even when you do a really thorough investigation, the truth can be really hard to find. We might never know for sure what happened to Pandit Raghavan or why.
That's true.
But we can't give up on finding answers.
Absolutely. Even if it's uncertain, the search for justice is crucial. We have to honor Raghavan's memory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe someday there'll be a new piece of evidence or a witness will come forward or someone will finally decide to tell the truth.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
It would. But even if those breakthroughs never happen, even just looking into this mystery, analyzing the evidence, thinking about the different possibilities, it all has value.
I agree. It makes us think differently, question our assumptions, and understand how complicated people can be.
Yeah. Maybe by doing all of this, we can learn to appreciate how fragile life is and how important truth and justice are.
That's a good point.
The unsolved case of Pandit Raghavan shows us that even in a sacred place like a temple, terrible things can happen. It's a case that forces us to ask tough questions, face some uncomfortable truths, and never give up hope that justice will win in the end.
Well said. It's been a really intriguing dive into this unsolved mystery.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear what you think about the case. Maybe you have some ideas or theories. Who knows, maybe your insight will help uncover something new.
That would be amazing.
And if you're interested in more stories like this, unsolved mysteries and true crime from India, make sure you follow and subscribe to CrimePod Castle. We'll be back with more fascinating cases and discussions that will keep you thinking. Stay curious, everyone, and we'll see you next time.